He's been shot 6 times. Halloweenies. He's been burned alive. Halloweenies. He's lost his head. Halloweenies. Michael Myers can't and won't be stopped, which is why he returns this October. In anticipation, the Consequence Podcast Network presents Halloweenies, a limited series that carves out one Halloween movie a month, leading all the way up to the October 19th release of David Gordon Green and Danny McBride's new movie. You'll get tricks. You'll get treats. You'll get Michael. Tune in for the night we came home.
Consequence Podcast Network.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith With. It's an audio interview series presented by WFPK, Independent Louisville, Consequence of Sound, and the Consequence Podcast Network. If you haven't already, and maybe you're listening for the first time, hit the subscribe button right now so you can keep up with all of these interviews in the series. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today, my guest is Kristin Hersh. The Throwing Muses lead has a new solo record out called Possible Dust Clouds, and we'll talk about its psychedelic sound and really awesome percussion that you can find throughout it. Also using her voice as an instrument, one of my favorite things about this record. There's also a little bit of talk about religion, and then we head into the time machine to 1998 to discuss Strange Angels, which she calls an album of small music that was produced by Joe Henry. We'll wrap it up with a little bit of discussion about the Boston scene that she came from in the early days with the Pixies. It's Kyle Meredith with Kristin Hersh.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm all right. Let me give you the compliments then on Possible Dust Clouds, because I don't know what I was expecting. I don't know that I was expecting anything particular when I jumped into it, but holy cow, it blew me away right from the beginning.
No shit.
Yeah. I mean, the feel of this record is so cool, and you know, I guess it's a different thing for you. Sort of a psychedelic feel through the thread. Is that accurate? Is that fair?
Oh, I'll listen to you. I trust you more than me. I do some psychedelia, it seems. I am from the 60s. I have a solo record called Sunny Border Blue that sounds like the Monkees if something terrible happened to them. It seems to be like a default production move on my part. So the songs aren't particularly psychedelic, but the production itself sounds like the impact of a live performance without sounding like it was recorded live, which kind of, sometimes that just means recorded badly. But I added chaos, I think, is what I was doing. I didn't know at the time. I was like, none of this can be in tune or in time, or it sounds stupid. So all of the percussion is out of time, and all of the any melodic overdub is kind of like drone-like and out of tune, because it just sounded better to me. It sounded like a wild party, but a nice one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's all the stuff that I'm hearing, too. And, like, when you're using those recording techniques, does that change how the song was written or influence how the song is written?
No, I don't seem able to influence how the song is written. Songs just are. And I put on my producer hat immediately, probably as I'm reaching for the guitar, because I let the guitars determine the band. Throwing Muses songs are written on my Tully or my Strat, 50-foot Wave on my SG or my Les Paul, and then solo is kind of a free-for-all, but they're usually written on Collings. And so that's a style move. So when I'm wearing that hat, I'm stepping away from the inspiration, and I have to watch that. I go into the studio knowing exactly what mics I'm going to use, where they're going to be placed, what amps, how long I have to leave them on for, where the drum mic is going to be, where the room mic is going to be, what reverbs I'm going to use and what reverbs I'm not going to use. I know everything by heart before the record is made, and I'm always completely wrong. Like, completely wrong. Like, have you ever even heard a record before? Which I love. It's because the songs are the inspiration, and they know what to do, and you don't. And you should keep learning that over and over again.
Well, you mentioned that percussion being out of time. I mean, one of the things that struck me was how exciting the percussion is. Well, I don't know. Was there anything that drove you in that direction to say that this is, to be that chaotic in that style for that, I guess, specific instrument?
Yeah, being stupid before that. Like right before that, I played something in time that was maybe a more predictable element than a drum kit, and it sounded so tasty and tight. I just thought, no, and you erase it, but you can't you're not happy just with erasing it. You have to undo it by doing its opposite. And to me, that was this nutty freaking dulcimer that was in the corner of the studio that I mic'd and so close that there's no sustain to it, and I played it wrong so that it just sounds like clanging, and I had to play it out of time or it wouldn't have that sort of live feel, which could be the reflective of the chaos of a live show, but it could also just be how sound vibrations bounce around a room. That's what it sounds like to the audience.
Yeah, I was just reading. I don't know if it was Uncut or Mojo, but it was all about the tour with Throwing Muses and Pixies back in '88, and then you were featured in there. But you know, Charles, he was talking about what you were talking about and saying for him it's almost impossible to get that loose feel of youth, to have the accidents kind of happen in the studio. But I don't get the sense that you have that problem as much. That looseness can exist with your songs with a bit more ease than maybe other artists can.
Yeah, I have to be made of loose. I have such an aversion to taking tight for granted, I suppose, which is what that tasty thing is. Bad production, beer commercial production. There's a place for it, and it takes a great deal of solidity and of fluidity in the top and the bottom of the sonic elements, meaning that happy accidents can occur once you have that strong muscular song body down. And this works live, too. You just have to know what your essential elements are. If your song is alive, then to treat it with that reductionist technique of making it tight and smaller than it should be, it's just a missed opportunity, that's all. You can still be very solid and muscular. I'm in a math rock band. It's really hard for me to shake off tightness, but I know that looseness has its place.
Well, I'll bring up another instrument, and that being your voice, because it on this record, actually, it feels like as much of an instrument as on this record as anything else. Like, I feel like I want to know the words, but I don't feel like I have to hang on to them as much as some of your songs in the past.
Good. I like that. I always had a problem including lyrics on the package because I was afraid somebody would just sit there and read them. It seems so stupid. And here's the poetry. And because they were such an instrument, they were part of the vocals. It was as if you included the sheet music in the package. It's like, yeah, it's essentially what this is, yeah. But don't read it. I like the percussive nature of vocals, and they should stand as poetry. And I think I've released a lyric book this year, in fact. But I like that you don't separate them from the music. That's great.
No, it flows right in there and works so well. Only until afterwards that I kind of pull through and go, oh, what was she saying? And not in a condescending way, obviously. It feels like such a complete piece. A big compliment there.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I like that. I also like Chris Brady's backing vocals so much on this record. He's one of my favorite singers. He was in Sub Pop's Pond, and they toured with the Musics for many years. And he's got such plain, raw, honest vocals. He's one of the few musicians I work with who's not particularly idiosyncratic. He's sort of pure instead, which is so rare that it's actually unusual.
You'd mentioned
that sounds really bitter. I mean it in a good way.
You'd mentioned in the press release that you invited a lot of friends on this record. Is that right?
Yeah. Compared to my other records where I play everything, because it wasn't that many. But Fred and Dave from the Muses, Rob from 50 Foot Wave, and my son Wyatt plays drums on it.
That's cool. How is that? I mean, it's not the first time that's happened, is it?
Yeah, I think when they were little, they played little piano things on a murder ballad record I made, which sounds kind of tacky, but and it was, in fact, Appalachian folk songs. I think they sang and played on that. But this is Wyatt, the drummer. So yeah, it's different.
Yeah. It's got to be great having that connection there, though. That's, as I read, anytime I read about that happening, I sort of have that thought, like, that's got to be at least sort of kind of a cool moment on some different level than the usual one.
Oh, man, yeah. And I played drums on most of it. And you can tell the difference because I turned Wyatt's drums all the way up. Like, oh, look at the baby. He's so cute. And then Fred from the Muses played bass on that same track. It's called Breathe In. I think it's the penultimate track. But yeah, Wyatt's, it was funny. I was ready to be mom and producer, and the first take he did was real snare heavy, and I said, don't be married to the snare. You're not holding this band together like you would, in the garages in Providence where you usually play. And I said, it can all be fills. You can do, be loose with this, and I'll keep us together. And again, everything was wrong. He was absolutely right. Being married to the snare was the right thing to do. And so I went back to, I think I used one of his very first tapes, because he's got such an ear and again, like such a looseness, like you said.
That youth will always win in that situation.
I actually just had this conversation with Fred, because we were saying it was Bernie, the other bass player. We were saying we never bought into life chapters. When we were kids, we seemed oddly mature to the point of boring. And then as we got older, we seemed oddly immature because we were still the same. We didn't. He had a kid at 50, I think, and I had kids when I was a teenager, and it's just nothing was ever any different. The records don't sound different from life stage to life stage. We just sort of who we are, and that's it. Like, we just weren't ever going to be anything else.
But at least you know that. There's security, of course, in knowing who you are. That's, yeah, completely.
Oh, I'm going to start seeing it that way. Secure is not how I felt about it. But I'll take that. Happy to.
I want to bring up a couple of the songs, and Fox Point being one of those, because there's that riff, and I have to ask about the riff, because is it a coincidence that it sounds very close to Chicago's 25 or 6-4?
I don't know that song.
Okay, there was the da-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na, which is just a sort of a descending thing, but so anybody could have, I guess, come up with that, but I didn't know if there was maybe an homage happening there, just or
Sorry.
No. I don't think you have to apologize for that. Maybe
it was subliminal. Probably heard it in a cab or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
It's a cool point of that song, by the way. I love it. It's cool. And then the other one I'll bring up, is sort of one of the first songs we got to hear was "No Shade in the Shadow," which, as a phrase, is commonly used in religious subjects. And I was sort of wondering if there were still overtones in this song, if this was going down the religion path with you on this track.
I was raised by hippies, so you can't even really call that a religion, but they happen to have been raised Southern Baptist, so my background is fluid at best. And I would think that my lyrics, as percussively melodic as they are, wouldn't necessarily enter down that path. But there's a psychological reality to both of those images, obviously, and there isn't a whole lot of relief in your dark side. And so, yeah, that's fairly heaven and hell, and lots of different ways for us to burn up here. So, yeah, okay.
Lots of different ways for us to burn up here. That's as we see day in and day out.
There's a 50-foot wave line about that. It's a song on Power and Light about degradation. Desperate times call for desperate pleasures. Same concept. That we do look to hide from that burn in our darkness, and it's never going to be safe. The safest we can be is to be exposed, and that's the most empathic we can be. We're here to be strong, to live hard, and to do that for each other, and that's probably where those lines are going.
Is it so? I'm gonna use that as the point to jump in the time machine to '98, because on the Strange Angels record there is the song Gazebo Tree. Is there a way to draw a thread between the two? And I'm, of course, using that line, "Don't you know that Jesus died?" as sort of the connection point here.
Oh, that's a good one. I would have missed that. That wasn't mine. This old lady on a bus sat down next to me and told me that she never ever left the house. She was on a bus when she said this. I said, oh, so you're bonkers. Tell me more. And I said, why? And she said, well, look what they did to Jesus. Wow. Like she thought she was going to get crucified at the mall. So go ahead and draw that thread. I'll follow you there. But clearly, I don't know a whole lot about my own lyrics. They say what they want to. If they get stuck in my throat, I know I'm lying. Mm-hmm. And not a terrible lie, more like trying to make sense of this, getting in the way. But that's as close as I get to having other words for their truth. Probably if I did, I'd just write books. But this is the way songs use words is as if they are all verbs. They're all active. Every color, every noun, everything is an action. And that the truth inherent in that language is just obviously far more active than the more staid conversational communication we engage in at other times. So I don't like to get in the way of it, but I'll talk about them. I don't have any problem doing that. I just sound like I don't know, like I didn't actually write the songs.
And I'm following through all that. I'm just kind of letting that resonate because I love your explanation, for what songs are and how they become and what they live to be. And
I do. I love music. I'm obsessed with it, but I can't reduce it, I suppose. I haven't been able to do that math that would help the equation work in any other medium, I suppose. Just the noise of it is just so precious to me.
Well, I'll back up a little bit so it's not song specific because, just sort of taking the moment here to celebrate the 20 years of that great record.
Thanks for telling me that it's the 20th anniversary. I didn't know that.
And happy 20th anniversary to it too. So
that's a very hidden little record. I barely remember making it. It was out. I was living out in the desert. It has the song "Baseball Field" on it. I always liked that one. Mm-hmm. It's a song nobody knows.
Yeah, but it seemed like an interesting time, for that record too, because at that moment you had just put Throwing Muses to bed, and I guess this was your second solo record. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. We didn't break up or anything. I had tried to break the band up years earlier, just saying, well, I wanted to get off of Warner Brothers, and I couldn't think of any other way to do it because I couldn't afford to buy myself off of Warner Brothers. And I was the only member signed. It was in a key member clause. So the Muses made a record called The Real Ramona, and during that I was just like, fuck this. Like, we're out of here. This band does not exist. Can we go now? I just could not face that corporate crap one more day. What they do to music is just so wrong. To turn it into the product and the bimbo and the junk food it's not music. They don't want music. They want fashion candy. And that's fine. It's just, that's not my world. So I tried to leave, and I had a baby, and my drummer came over to play with the baby all the time and listen to the songs I was still putting on the 4-track because, music and the music business have nothing to do with each other. So I was still recording songs, and he just screamed because he had headphones on and couldn't hear his own voice. He's holding my baby and he just yells, "Let's just be a band that doesn't give a shit because we are a band that doesn't give a shit." Which was true. So the baby's crying, and I'm thinking, oh, Dave's right. So I did make a few more records for Warner Brothers, and I think the last solo one was Strange Angels, or no, I gave them, in exchange for my freedom, I gave them my first solo record. So I was just kind of being very quiet then. And Strange Angels is a very strangely angelic, quiet piece. Yeah. In light of the rest of the noise I have made, this teeny little moment, it's quieter than my first solo record, which was essentially just acoustic guitar and cello, I think. There's just something very desert about that record.
It's still beautiful. I mean, it's still just completely gorgeous, those songs.
Oh, thank you. I haven't heard it since then. I'll trust you on that.
And you worked with Joe Henry on that too, right? I know Joe pretty well.
Oh, yeah. Because I was making it out in the desert, and he said, "You know what? Just come over. That's too lonely." So yeah, I just hung out in Joe's garage and came out with a little teeny record. But it's a sweet one, right?
It is a sweet one, and it's nice to see it sort of has had this extra life to it just because that title, Strange Angels, you've applied that to other parts of, is it your supporters? Is that what it is that I remember reading?
Yeah, my listener subscribers, they pay all of my studio costs that I don't need a record company, and they pay for all the outsourcing I've had to do, from vinyl to radio to publicity to, just photo shoots even. They have been my record company, and that was really important. 50-Foot Wave made the first step in that direction by being this kind of cooperative that pioneered the pay what you want model. But I needed more than that. I needed to know that this was for the people it was intended to resonate with. Mm-hmm. I want to say the smart listeners. And what I mean is like the musically literate people who need visceral, who need real. And there are people who only want fashion candy, and that's not my world. So I need to find the people that want this medicine, because that's what I'm here for. And these listener subscribers that we call Strange Angels, they seem to be the people that I'm here with anyway. They help me and I help them. It's this circle of gratitude between us.
If every musician could be so lucky, to have that, such a supportive group of people kind of, helping them out from the very beginning, that would change a lot of things.
Yeah, I don't think it's right for every musician, really, but I know what you're saying. It's definitely an honor and a blessing, but you have to care about something you're asked not to care about in the business, which is refining your audience, making it smaller and smaller and smarter and smarter. Very few musicians are willing to do that. Right. They think more. And those are not repeat customers, and you're not making medicine at that point. There's no room for power or idiosyncrasy or any of the things that make spontaneous music real. So I had to court these people with a sort of failure. Yeah. In the business, this is a failure, and that's fine. I don't want the business. I don't want that ugly success. It's like, as a woman, I've seen it in humans. I know the bimbo win. I've seen it. It's not a secret what you're trying to do. It's just real ugly and damaging, and it's digging us a hole that we just keep jumping into. So it's time for people in politics and music to get out of their holes. And it's going to be quiet. You don't attract a lot of attention doing so, and that's what humans are here for. Small world, big picture. Sorry, I got all sanctimonious there.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Are you kidding?
I'm just saying, it really isn't what every musician wants. To refine your audience means to make it smaller and have more impact.
Some of my greatest heroes, musical heroes, have done that, and you're right. It's not for everybody. It wouldn't work for everybody, but I've always appreciated the ones who have done it and wanted it and pulled it off and, fearlessly went down that path. And you being one of those. So,
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for being that kind of a listener. That's obviously, the more you know about music, the more you listen that way. So there is an education involved, and some people are born with it. Some people have to work at it, but their response is colored by life experience. Like I'm sitting in a surfmobile right now, and I can tell you these surfers who have to respond to the ocean, to every wave being different, and the power and the fear. They have a visceral appreciation of music. And then there are these other surfers that want to beat the wave and want to show off. And they listen to crap music. And I'm not going to reduce anybody to those elements, but it's sort of how it's my litmus test for humanity. Music is the only language I speak. And I speak a little ocean, too. And that's when I see that personality type most clearly, it's because of this sort of natural response. And I mean that literally, like nature, and music should reflect nature and your nature. It's just that music has this sort of bad component. It's like this grasp of sin, which is extra gorgeous to me. This ocean isn't real sinful, but music is dirty, and we need that as people. We need a little bit of redemption through sin and forgiveness and all that.
Well, that's definitely what I've lived my life from day to day to day for as long as I can remember. So
I know, yeah. It's a real thing. And, God and the devil, those are things on our shoulders that you don't need religion tell you about. But it's not. They're such disparate elements of your venture. They just have different colors.
Well, I'll wrap up here. Something a bit, I'd say a bit more lighthearted. That's beautiful stuff. Again, I don't want to knock. I'm not trying to say that, but I noticed that there was a long time ago where you were included in a scene, in the Throwing Muses days in that Northeast scene, and I thought, how interesting is it as we look at now 2018, and here you have a new record out. Belly has a record, The Breeders, Buffalo Tom, Juliana Hatfield, and Dinosaur Jr. all at once, and everybody is still knocking it out of the park with some of their best music. And to me, that was incredible. I don't know if you've noticed that or if that's even on your radar, but it sort of hit mine, and I thought how beautiful that is.
Yeah, that's nice. I think I was in that scene for a minute before all those bands.
Yeah.
It was sort of us and the Pixies in my day, and Dinosaur Jr., I guess. And it was a strong scene, meaning you were supposed to sound like yourself. And the garage rock vocabulary that we were all deeply embedded in was just necessity. We literally played in garages, and our equipment sucked. And so when we played these shows, nobody was really headlining that I can remember, and the audience was made up of other people who were also playing the show. And we just switched places and support each other, and that was a great education. Whatever happened after that doesn't really matter as much as that sort of initial fire that Charles was talking about. Like, that he and I would sit there for hours just trying to figure it out and trying not to look too closely at it because it was such a fire and we knew it could go out if we paid too much attention to it, but we were obsessed with it. So how do you not? And that's what I can't lose. I've seen people lose it. They get self-conscious. They want to sell records. They think they can dress away. And it sounds so stupid. Like, I know you've heard it before, but the superficial is for fooling people, and it only fools the foolish. So people step away from substance, and it just doesn't serve them. They die a little, and they do not make anything but false friends by doing so. And so, yeah, that scene, that mattered. And there are scenes all over the place that matter again, merely because there is no music business any longer. That fire is coming back.
Yeah, well, I certainly appreciate you serving the music in the way you have all this time. And my compliments, wrapping it up here with this new record too, with Possible Dust Clouds. It's one of your best. It really is.
Thank you so much for listening. I so appreciate it, Kyle. That's very kind of you.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Kristin. I'll let you get to the studio or do whatever you need to do. But I appreciate you taking all this time to talk.
Throwing Muses today. We're back in the studio with 50 Foot Waves producer Mud Rock in L.A., which is like it's like a family reunion where people haven't met yet.
Yeah. So Throwing Muses is the next thing we can hear after this? Is that
I believe
the plan?
so, yeah.
That's exciting. That's so exciting. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you around.
I appreciate you doing this, sweetheart. Talk soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
And my thanks to Kristin Hersh, the new solo record, Possible Dust Clouds. I'll be looking forward to that new Throwing Muses record as well. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button right now, whether you're listening at YouTube or you're checking out the podcast at iTunes or Podchaser. After that, give it a rating, leave a review, then head to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show every Monday through Thursday from noon to 3 Eastern. You'll also find some bonus episodes of this series over there. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.
Consequence Podcast Network.